Welcome to He Believes She Feels episode 7. I have the beautiful Hilary Burton here, founder of Goddess Guidance. How are you?
I'm great. How are you?
Good, good. So tell me a little bit about what you do. I appreciate you coming on and tell me a little bit about what you do, your journey, and everything that you've been through.
I am so excited to be here. We have such great energy together. I know it's going to be an awesome conversation. So, yes, I am Hilary. I help women stand tall in their divine feminine, and I work through divine feminine energetics and sensual energetics. So, I have quite an interesting path into that. It's taken some time, a lot of inner work, a lot of processing. So, I'm a therapist, I am a personal trainer, I'm a coach, and I'm also a dominatrix.
Not something you hear every day.
No, no, and we'll get into it more, but it's taken a lot to be comfortable with that, right? And to bring that out and to not have fear with, my mission and what I want to do with that.
So tell me about how you incorporate your spirituality, your mentoring, and with all that passion I know you have behind what you do.
So it's been a journey, and when I talk about this, I usually talk about how I got into it helping other people, but I want to talk a little bit about how I got into it through my personal journey, right? Because that's where we start with it, and that's we start doing this inner work, and then we're like, wow, I can really help other people with this too. And so I did the traditional, you go to school, you find yourself a person, you get married, you do the house, you do the whole traditional path. And 5 years, I'm into my therapy career and I'm married and I'm just living this menial life. And I wake up one day and just thought, this can't be all there is for me, right? Like we have this life to live and there's got to be more to that. And so I went through a lot of inner work and realized that wasn't the path that I was meant for ultimately. And so I made some really tough decisions and got out of my marriage. I changed what I was doing with my business. I started a whole new business and I got into fitness. So I did the whole physical mindset wellness journey, right? And saw what I was capable of physically. And I know you did a lot of that as well with, your weight loss journey. And so I feel like starting with our bodies, transforming that first is something so visual that we can see and feel, right? And we're like, okay, I'm making the changes with this. All the work that I'm putting in is making a difference. And then I feel like we're able to transition those skills to mindset and spirituality and, being able to work through that. So I started my business in therapy, and then I also started my dominatrix practice. So I got certified, I received a training, and I really wanted to delve into the psychology of it and the sensuality of it and why our brains work the way they do and why we're interested in certain things. And it became more of a spiritual practice for me. So I call it sensual therapy. And it's all about divine energetics between the feminine, the masculine, and incorporating our sensual selves.
Because it's a little bit different from the regular, let's call it dominatrix style that we've known in the past and been accustomed to knowing, right? One of the things that
Yeah.
gravitated to me towards you is actually that. So let's go deeper into like what your why of everything else, like you just said, but let's go a little bit deeper and more detailed.
So it is so different because the dominatrix industry itself just has a negative connotation, right? People see it as something dark, something taboo. And I really want to bring that into the light because, of course, there's those aspects of it just with every industry. But it's something that can be so therapeutic and so healing. And what's different is I bring my therapy background into that, right? And so I'm trying to heal people through these different modalities, these different environments. And it's not healing that you get in any other way. And it's delving into the masculine and why you're seeking these things, and it's delving into the feminine and being confident and having the self-worth and the self-respect and knowing that you want to be worshipped as a goddess.
That is the end result. You do a very good job in balancing your energies, your masculine and your feminine. You when you need to be in your masculine, I know we talked about this before. There's a lot of women out there that are too much in their masculine and don't encompass their whole femininity and all this power that they have. Like I talked to one yesterday and she doesn't even know the power she has. So how would you kind of help that person in terms of unlocking that or stepping out of your comfort zone and overcoming fear?
Yeah, well, and there's so much. I mean, you're spot on with that. It's, we have so many women that are in their masculine now and so many men that are in their feminine, and the power dynamics are just opposite. And no one is comfortable in that, right? No one's in their aligned energy with that. And we're just at this crossroads with it. So for women, it comes so much from self worth. Like it comes from confidence, it comes from having security in your body, having security in your beliefs, having security in your boundaries, right? And knowing that you're confident in what you stand for. And so when you feel that, when someone comes in with, a different kind of energy, or someone comes in with questions, or they're pushing your boundaries, you can stand firm in that and you can know your value. So that's
Yeah.
like the huge way that I like to tie in feminine energy with it, because it's not always the soft side that people think it is. It's having your confidence and your self-worth, and knowing there's value in that.
And I know you have a lot of that, a lot. And you are your Scorpio self, and I know you're into your whole divine. Um, but you hit the nail on the head, I believe. It's if you think about it, it's a lot of fear-based, like this all societal thing of like letting go of something that doesn't serve you because of your worth, right? Setting those boundaries.
Mhm.
I know we deal with that every day, right? Every day we're going over our fear. I know we laugh a lot about this, and it's like fear is a strong, the amount of strength that it takes you to break through something like this
Yeah.
is not a everyday thing.
No, and like fear is the motivator for everything, right? Fear of having something, of not doing something, of losing something. That's how we usually operate through life. But imagine if we did it through pleasure and joy and abundance. Like imagine if those were our motivators. And that's the goal, right? Is to, especially for me, like it's been really difficult on this journey to have everything into the light, right? And I coach women on being authentic. And I was authentic, but not fully. There was still this part of myself that, I wasn't sharing. And I feel like subconsciously we're telling our brain, I'm hiding this. And so then that's how it comes out to the world, right? Like that's the intention with it. Like I'm keeping this over here and it's something separate. And then, that's what we attract with that. So just fully stepping into that and knowing like this is my power. And this is something so incredibly unique that I feel all women should be able to experience and gain value from that. And so knowing that, and knowing that I want other women to have that confidence and to be comfortable in sharing their fully authentic selves, you have to step past that barrier. And it was so hard. And we deal with the fear of what? The 4 people in our life that are going to judge us. And like, Andy Frisella always says this. He's a great entrepreneur. He has a lot of mindset tips. And so his thing is, if that's not the life that you want, and that person doesn't embody what you want, they don't have the success that you imagine for yourself, why are we so concerned with their opinions of what we're doing? And why we're literally living our lives by other people's rule books. And it's our own. It's our own to make it what we want it to be.
I think it comes back to a lot of what we talked about before is the inner child, that scared
Mm,
inner child of not wanting to have fun because you're reprimanded or you got these traumas later on, while
yeah,
we're here free, just playing around in this playground because it is a playground. You're
it
supposed to
is.
have fun in this world. It's like this coming from two Scorpios. You're supposed to have fun in the world. You're not always supposed to have just like this like daunting cloud on you. I can imagine how did you start working on your shadows and everything else through your journey?
It was, I mean, it's not easy, right? And I feel like that's why it's so difficult for people to take that step into doing the shadow work, because it is so challenging, and it's scary to face those parts of yourselves, especially the parts that like nobody even knows about,
Yeah.
So and I feel like for the feminine, it's whenever you feel something like just hit you in the gut, and it's like, oh, that's uncomfortable. And a lot of times we just push it aside. Like you and I were talking a lot about emotional suppression, and it happens a lot in men, but women too, right? And something that makes us uncomfortable, we're like, oh, well, I'm going to steer away from that. I don't really want to look at that. But it's feeling that and then addressing that and saying, why does that make me uncomfortable? And digging to the bottom of that. And like, we're Scorpios. That's what we do. Like there is no fear that like we won't face. And like, we'll go into the depths, but that's what's scary, right? Is not knowing what that looks like. But once you're able to work through that, to process it, and then heal with that, it's life changing.
I feel like when people say the shadow is scary, it's almost like because the shadow, what does the shadow represent? Your authentic self that's been hiding in the past, right?
Mm-hmm.
But if you look at it from just like you look at it, you're scared to have your four friends look at you the wrong way. Same thing. The shadow is not scary. It's just the person you want to become, the person that's waiting for you. It's your mind that makes it scary. Like you're going down
Yeah.
a black alley and you're like, might be stabbed or not. Like that's the kind of way people see it. And then that provides fear, right?
Yeah. And we're our own worst judge.
Yeah.
You know, people are so excited about what we do, and we're out here worried about sharing it, because of perceived judgment or perception or whatever that looks like. And most people are so wrapped up in their own things that they're just excited to see other people succeeding
Yeah.
and going out there and doing big things. And there's so much positivity with that. And here we are, bottling it up and holding it back because we're like,
It's just not healthy. I mean, the whole. I know you and I know your mission. Let's talk about that because besides the dominatrix part, besides the spiritual coaching and tapping into that, we both have similar missions in this case. Is to help people raise the collective awareness, right? Talk a little bit about that.
we do. Yeah. My mission is to raise the collective of women. I love men, but my goal is to help women. You're doing the other side of that. Yeah, no, I want to raise the collective of women. We've gotten to a point where I feel like everyone feels so devalued and just struggling, right? And the countless amount of women that I know that are unhappy with their lives. They're depressed. They don't know their purpose. They wake up every day and it's Groundhog Day. Like, are we doing this all over again? And it's the rat race. We can't get ahead, right? They're miserable in their marriages or they're miserable at their jobs. And we're meant for so much more than that. Like, we have a divine purpose here. We were sent here for a reason. And it's not just something that we're just going to get through and throw away. Like, we all have an incredible purpose and we have so much to give and so much to live for. And I want to help women realize that. And I want to raise the energy, right? And the respect and the self-worth and the value. And like, once we're valuing ourselves, there won't be all of these toxic relationships. There won't be all of this abuse. There won't be all of these horrible experiences that we're going through. And so that's my goal for women, is for them to realize their potential, figure out what fulfills them, and be able to push past the fear to go and do it.
Yeah. I mean, we talked about this today, right? Like raising the collective of the woman and then raising the collective of their, then they can communicate better their boundaries and speak up their truth. Men can feel and actually support because we talked about both sides are just haven't been supported, right? There's just like this
Yeah.
disconnect of separation or like
Yeah.
overwhelming feeling of feminist or masculine or masculinity, all these things. So I feel like all we both want is to be supported and like hugged and like what do you actually want in life and in this
Yeah.
relationship?
Yeah. We all want to be loved and accepted, right? And we've been through so much and we're all traumatized and we have these inner wounds and we're in the opposite energy. And so we withhold that from one another. We withhold it from ourselves. We don't love and accept ourselves. So how can we give that to someone else? And it does take both sides. And like my goal is, to help the feminine and be healthy in our feminine masculine. And I know your goal is to work through the masculine, right? And help men process through that. And it takes both so that we can work together and raise the collective all at once.
That's the whole thing, collective. It's a
Yeah.
community. We're taught separation or individualistic, and it's actually more about joining together and realizing how powerful we are together more than
Mm-hmm.
separated.
Yeah. And so a lot of how I view the masculine for men, right, is being providers, protectors, creating the space for women to be able to show that love, for women to be able to grow for women to create these incredible things, right? We have so much love and creation for the world, and together we can provide that, but it takes both.
I mean, yeah, you create life. You're literally
Yeah.
the creative source. You're
Yeah.
the mother source. And it's like, how does it feel to be embodied with that sexuality, that feminine space? Because that's powerful. I know you're powerful. So talk to me about that power.
That is the most powerful energy. It feels incredible. Like being connected with your body, being connected with your sensual side, being connected with your sacral chakra is it's transformational, and it's such a divine energy. It's what our body craves, it's what our soul craves, and society and everything that we have going on right now pushes us so far away from that.
Mhm.
But I mean, it's the sensual energy that brings men to their knees,
Yeah.
literally. Like, and being able to tap into that in a healthy way, right? And knowing that I have this power and I'm in control of my body, I'm connected with my body, and playing with that. It's fun, it's pleasurable, it's exciting. Like, that's the energy that we want to be in our feminine. And it just feels so divine.
Yeah, it's very interesting you say that because at the same time, it benefits the male as well because you're in that space because we are taught to like go after your intuition. Ask you like, hey, Hillary, babe, what do you think this might like that intuition, that powerful that you ladies possess? That is a
Mhm.
gift. That is something like I see as a gift and nourishment. And when you're running all your cylinders, like there's no stopping the world with you and whatever partner you decide to have in your life.
Yeah, it's so powerful. And it is a gift, and we get so disconnected from that. And so being able to tap into that, like connecting with my sensual energy, helps me connect with my intuition. It helps me feel more of those gut responses. It helps me process my next steps. It helps me connect with spiritual energy too, right? So it's for me, it's the basis of most of what I do, whether it's in, dominatrix sessions, whether it's helping women connect with their bodies, whether it's just personal, it's huge.
Yeah. How do you how do you build yourself up to that? Like the little tips and tricks, how do you get yourself into that zone when you're about to like start a session, let's say?
Ooh, that's juicy. um, so I have like a movement practice, and I'm actually hosting some classes coming up about it too. But it's so I would consider it like a bit of like sensual fluid movements mixed with a little bit of yoga. So it's connecting with your body. So like I start with touch, right? So many of us forget what it feels like to even be touched in a pleasurable way, right? And so it starts with touch, connecting with your body, and you can use any sensory things you want. You can use temperature, you can use feathers, you can use a flower, whatever brings in some kind of emotion, some kind of feeling for you.
Mhm.
And then I'll go into a movement practice. And typically I do it in front of the mirror, right? Because I want to build that confidence with myself. I want to see that energy in myself. And so, yeah, it's just fluid, sensual, somatic movement. And it just gets me in the right spiritual and mental space to tap into that energy when I need it.
Body movement is important. Don't we release a lot of like emotional traumas through body movement? And
Mm-hmm.
then when you said that, like we just want to be touched, I was like, yeah, I forget that myself too. I'm like just like a little. So I'm like, oh, okay. I'm like,
Yeah. And we
it's
depend on so many other people for that. But if you think about, this comes a lot back to my therapy background with sensory, regulation and sensory input too. Like if you just give yourself a hug, like you don't always have to depend on the outside world to do that for you. Give yourself some compression and some deep pressure and just that feeling of safety and security. And, I love myself. I love my body. I love what it does for me. And, starting your day that way.
yeah. a lot of mirror practice, a lot of that, and it's
Hmm.
powerful because I thought about the times that how I got into whatever zone or just started to love my body and myself, coming from the weight that we talk about. It was all
Yeah.
mirror work and looking at my body and just like being intentional too. Like one part, you're being intentional about your touching. You're being this. It's not just like a here, let me touch myself and go from there.
Yeah.
It's about being intentional, not abusing that energy, right?
Yeah. And usually when we experience touch, whether it's a sensual way or a professional way or whatever it is, usually it's a means to an end, right? But doing it with the intention of just being present with it and just enjoying it and it being pleasurable, like that's something that we don't normally think about. Like I'm just going to touch my arm just to feel it and enjoy it, not because I want to get something out of it or, working towards a purpose. It's just
You're
joy.
definitely in a unique field. I've done a lot of podcasts with different feminine, but you're definitely doing something different because you want to change the collectiveness, and you're doing it to your spiritual journey. But you're doing it so unique. It's the first time, like especially when you talk about dominatrix, right? Dominating and all this. You like I said before, it's always like a negative invitation or like something darker. But
Hmm.
I know we talked about it a little bit this before, and we can kind of go in there. It's like let's talk about the darker side that people think is actually dark, but it's not dark.
Yeah, and I feel like the view of dominatrixes in the industry is it's just BDSM based, it's abusive, it's non-consensual, right? And it's just one person with this overbearing power and nobody has any say in, what's going on. And it is sensual therapeutics for both sides. And, I have a lot of clients who very masculine entrepreneurs, alpha energy, and they make a million decisions a day and they're never able to turn their brain off. They go home to their families and it's the same thing, right? And it's just constant decision after decision. And so to be able to have that reprieve, to be able to have that blank space to where the only thing they need to think about is what I'm directly telling them to do in this present moment, right? And that's so refreshing. And like I think back to when I was in my masculine energy, right? And still, I use my masculine quite a bit, right? As an entrepreneur and I'm building all these things. And so it's so nice to be able to drop into my feminine and drop into submissive when I want to let go of some of that pressure and tension and expectations. So it's really it's a consensual practice on both sides, but it's so therapeutic. And I feel like that's what I do differently than a lot of, what people consider dominatrixes. And there is that aspect of the industry where it's, a little bit darker, it's not as much healing, but I want to change that. And it doesn't need to look like that. I can, we all have our own branch and our own vision for what it looks like. And I want it to be a bright therapeutic healing light, not, something we need to keep in the shadows.
I mean, you are changing it. So it's not you want to, you are changing it.
We're
It's
goddesses.
funny because you mentioned yeah, you mentioned this comment, and I'm like thinking about, yeah, it's true. Like I make a million decisions, and I'm always pioneering for myself, and I'm always doing this for myself. At the end of the day, all we want, and as men, as all we want, is just somebody to like nurture us or like not have to complicate our lives and keep our peace and
Hmm.
have that blank slate. So I can see why people will turn to you in that regard as well, because I can see how addicting that energy would be because you're always so much in control.
Yeah. And the beauty of that is, I've done the self work. I'm very confident I have the self worth and it's so powerful. Right? So I can hold that space for these men because if they're in a situation where they're with someone submissive, they're with someone very feminine, they still have to uphold that even if it's not at work, even if it's not, during their daily lives. And
Yeah.
so being in that power to hold that space is really what makes the difference.
Yeah, it does. It does. Now you mentioned something about entrepreneurship. I know a lot of people especially women in entrepreneurship. How would you say give the best advice for them to like balance that energy? Because since you're such an entrepreneur, you have to be a lot in that masculine, but also toggle back and forth between that feminine when you need to turn it off. Because I know that's how a lot of relationships are ruined, right?
Hmm.
Because you're too
Yeah.
much in that space.
It's tricky. It's really tricky, right? And it's what we were talking about with intention. Like it all has to be intentional. And when you come home, it's about taking some time to prioritize yourself, prioritize what you need. It doesn't have to be something soft and flowy and feminine like, most people think. I like to go out shooting and that's very therapeutic. I like to take my Jeep off-roading and that's therapeutic. So it can be whatever you feel joy in, whatever you feel pleasure in, right? Just lightness and taking away some of that hardness. So like I went through that. I was in my masculine for probably a decade, just solely masculine energy, very hard, very rough exterior. And so I slowly added in things that brought me more joy, that helped me prioritize myself and prioritize some time.
Yeah.
And I know that's hard for a lot of women with families and kids, but it's taking 10 minutes. It's 10 minutes to go journal. It's 10 minutes to go do some somatic movement in front of the mirror. It's 10 minutes to go take a bath. It's 10 minutes to go, on a walk, whatever it is.
It's such a short time, but it's such a greater impact. Like when people start, like we know we both are impatient. We know we're Scorpios, we're impatient with this, but that is the key thing is patience in this and having the decency to like love yourself enough that you
Mm-hmm.
stop and then you really notice how much more that impacts your whole life, your whole day, whatever it might be, instead of just running
Yeah.
yourself to the ground, literally.
Yeah. We get so caught up in that, right? And society's just like hustle, 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 grind, grind, grind. And like that's more applicable towards men, right, than it is towards women, just being in your masculine, because your masculine is pushing, it's breaking those barriers, it's building, it's, go fight, win. But being in your feminine is stepping back and letting things flow. We don't have to push so hard. And if we're pushing so hard, then it's probably not an aligned path, right? Or we're not doing it with the right intention. So it's stepping back and like just taking a breath and letting it flow through that.
I mean, yeah. I mean, you're right. It's just aligned. We talk about this a lot. When something
Mm,
doesn't fit, doesn't feel right, and we stay in there, it's gonna destroy our energy. We called it that energy vampire, like we called it today.
yeah.
It's like,
Yeah.
and that's a big thing, and people don't understand. Protect your energy, right?
Yeah. No, and it brings us so much further back into the 3D, right? And so much in that lower vibration. And we're projector Scorpios. I mean, we get so drained by other people's energy and we start to match that. And so
Yeah.
it's
How
it's
do you protect your
evaluating.
energy?
Yeah.
How do you do that? How do you protect your energy when you're about to, let's say, meet with a client that you know might not be the best energy?
So someone just taught me this a little bit ago too, and it's sympathy over empathy. So I can have sympathy for you, what you're going through, because I work through this with a lot of my clients, right? Things are very heavy and things are very draining, and so I tend to take that on. And so it's having sympathy for them. I understand it. I can relate to that. Here's how we can work through it. Rather than empathy, where I'm taking on that energy, taking on those problems, and then like putting myself in that place to fix it. So I really have to visualize kind of stepping out of the situation because I tend to like draw into it, right? And so it's energy work practice. It's I do mindset work before I step in with clients and just make sure I put up a little barrier where I'm protecting myself and sympathy.
I think I've always explained this, and you're hitting the nail on the head. Like, especially to like overthinkers, right? They
Mm,
overthink, like we overthink, but we don't attach ourselves to the emotion, to the feeling, to the
yes.
thing. Sometimes we can because that's normal, but most of the
Yeah.
time we're pretty good. And I think when people happen to overthink and get into that other people's energy, and then it starts a spiral that they can't break out of, and it's just
Yeah.
like, what do I do now? How do I break out of this overthinking and attaching myself to the feeling of the outcome that hasn't even happened yet?
Hmm. That's the thing, right? That future planning, the outcome, like feeling that's where we get wrapped up in it. And we just have to hit pause on that, say this is not mine, this does not belong to me, and detach yourself emotionally from that.
Yeah. Cord cutting, if it's grounding exercises, if it's everything else.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I mean, you're definitely in an interesting space. That's for sure. You're definitely in an interesting space for sure. What's your plan? Like what's your goal for this? Like in general? I know we talked about our mission, but what is your actual goal?
I mean, my goal is just an absolute movement for women, right? To know their power, to know what they're capable of. And I want this to get out to as many women as possible, right? Like, I want this to change the world of how we treat each other, how we're going through life, how we're existing. We're meant for so much more.
We are. And I think especially for you, if I'm just thinking out loud here, you have such a unique gift because you're able to tap into like that darker side of the feminine space and embrace your sexuality, embrace who you are with confidence too, bravado,
Yeah.
confidence, all the above. And I think that's something to be said for like other women to take a look at who might be struggling to embrace that femininity or scared, right?
Yeah. And we're taught to push that down, right? Women are taught to push down their sensuality, their sexual desires, and it's impossible, right? Like, oh, don't wear that. That's too provocative, or you're not showing enough. You're, a prude. And it's impossible to make everyone happy and be this perfect ideal standard. And so we're just taught just to, well, hide that all away, tuck it all under the rug because, as a woman, you shouldn't have sexual desires and all of these things. So it's so freeing and so empowering to know, no, we live in that. We create in that energy. Like, that's where we're the most powerful. And so everything with society and standards and social media, like, not being in your face, but being so confident and knowing your power in that, it's life changing. It changes everything. It changes your interactions. It changes the way you view the world. It changes relationships that you're in, right? Because your energy's changing. You're not attracting the lower vibration. You're not attracting that negative energy. Like, now you're like, okay, I'm in my power. I know what I'm worth, and I will find, a match for that.
How do you because you're right. But then when that happens, I know in the feminine space or just in general, everybody they hold on to past relationships that no longer serve them, friendships, society, and they can't let that go as they're trying to upgrade and change their frequencies. Have you experienced that before?
Is that a personal target?
I would never do anything like that.
You know too much about me, Raphael. Yeah, I mean, it comes to a point where you see how that energy, that relationship is affecting you. And I was going through this recently, right? Where I can see it. I'm aware. I know that this is bringing me back into the 3D. It's something that's not helping propel me forward. And so it's looking at what you want for your life. And like, okay, I know I'm capable of this. I know this is my vision. This is my life. Is this supporting that? Or is this dragging it down? Right. And so once you realize that, there's no question about it. And I did this forever in my marriage, right? And I just dragged it out and I just let it go on because I was trying to save everyone from the pain, but it's going to come eventually. And how much time have you not been working towards that dream, right? How much time and energy have you been putting into other things? And that, I heard a really good quote today, and it resonated with me so much. And it was talking about the longer you postpone your future, the shorter the time you have to experience it. And that hit me so hard because the future me is just like this perpetual, oh, it's in the future. I could be living it right now. And I have these things in my life that, we just hold on to. And it's not something that's pushing us forward. It's not something that's helping us build our dream or even the person that we want to be. Right. And so it's recognizing that. And I feel like we get caught up in the fear of losing that because we don't think we're going to find something that fits better. We don't think we're going to find someone that loves us that much. We don't think we're going to be accepted, right? And so it's having the faith in yourself and the universe, creator, God, whatever you believe in, and knowing that there's always what's meant for you out there. And if it's not this, it's something better, right? And so we get caught up in the fear of like, I don't want to be alone. I don't want to feel that again. I don't know what's going to happen.
Right.
Yeah, I have to stay. No, no, it's this or it's something better. And that is always there for you. And so once you're able to let go of the things that are no longer supporting you, no longer helping you raise your vibration, then you can go attract the things that are meant for you.
Yeah. I mean, that's powerful because, and then there's so many other things that come with that. I remember my last podcast, she talked about how the ego grows and evolves and attaches itself from another aspect of your life. And then you have to recognize the ego's there too. And then the ego obviously is there to protect us from getting hurt, right? So, like, we
Mm-hmm.
hold on, we get in our own ways. The ego comes in a different way. And then we start telling ourselves, the one word that I always triggers me is, I can't do something. Like, every time somebody's like, oh, I can't do that because I can't quit vape, or I can't quit this, or I can't go to the gym. And I just sit there and I'm like, it's, you don't want to.
Mm-hmm. The biggest thing for me is everything is a choice. Everything you do is a choice. And you might feel like it's not. You might feel like you're in a predicament or the situation, or like, oh, well, I'm forced into this corner, so it's not a choice. Everything you do is a choice.
Yeah.
It's your choice to stay in that unfulfilling marriage. It's your choice to stay in a miserable career. It's your choice to push down your sensual energy. It's your choice. Like, we're choosing this every day. Do you want to choose that, or do you want to choose the incredible, fulfilling life that you're meant for?
That's scary, right? That's jumping off a
It
bridge. That's
is.
that was the analogy I heard. That's jumping off a plane, parachuting, while constructing your parachute midway in the jump kind of
It
fear.
is. It is. We talked about this too. Like, it takes so much strength to do that. And most people don't know what that feels like, right? Most people don't know what that mental, emotional, spiritual strength feels like to just let go of it all. And it's a lot of it is trusting in yourself to have that responsibility, to know that, like, I will figure this out. It's okay. I will figure it out. Whatever happens, it's meant to be for me. I know I'm divinely protected. I know I'm divinely guided. This is my path. I know my purpose. I'll figure it out. You know, we've both been in less than ideal situations and circumstances where it's just like, is this going to end? You know?
Still are.
what, yeah, what am I going through? But that also has a purpose,
Yeah.
right? And the strength that we gain and the knowledge and the tools that we build inside ourselves to work through that, it's invaluable. That's why we're
Yeah.
going through these experiences. And it's knowing that you've got it.
And we get caught up, and I think I heard some other quote. It's more of like, we get caught up in being happy and not being sad, but then we get happy about being happy, and then we get sad because we're not. Like, we just put so many layers on, like, the actual feeling, instead of coming up with the situation. Like, oh, this is coming into my life to show me that I need to work on this. Let me work on this. Have some fun. Do some noises. Have some fun in this dense energy, and work through it. Right. But, like, we get
Yeah,
caught up in that.
we do. And you and I talk about this all the time. Our Scorpio selves are always psychoanalyzing everything. And we're like, ooh, was this a test? What was I supposed to learn from this? What am I supposed to? And sometimes we just have to let it go and just enjoy today and, like, be thankful for what we have and just be like, you know what? This is fun for today. It's serving me today. I enjoy this. I'm going to keep that energy
Yeah.
because, yeah, we do that a lot.
Because if not, so, like, when people are struggling to make a decision, go by fear, go by this, like, trust us. We're talking, like, legit. Like, we've been through all of this hard stuff and continue to go through it. It's never ending. You think you're
Yeah.
past it, you're not. But do you want to be bored the rest of your life? Do you want to be stagnant, like your quote said? Like, do you want to make a decision when you're like 60, 70 years old, and then, like, you die from this earth, and, like,
Ugh,
you've like lived nothing in your life. All you did is work a job, come home, kiss your wife, and be bored, and that's it. Like, if you're happy with that, fine. But if you want to
yeah.
change your life, and, like, if there's any little resident, like, in your stomach, in your pit, saying, like, I want to be better, then
Yeah.
why not take a chance and start doing what you want to do? Because the four
Yeah.
people are not judging you.
Well, and one of my biggest things is we're the most qualified to help the people we used to be, right?
Yeah.
We've done the inner work on that. We have done the shadow work. We have figured that out. And we have, gone into the depths of those feelings and the struggle, right? Is challenging and face those fears. And so that's what I love about it, because we can help so many people through the things that we've already been through and tying in our other experiences and our knowledge and our backgrounds, right? And then that gets me. That really gets me. The fact that like I could be 80 and just be like, what did I do? You know, what have I done? And we all have a different purpose here. And so there are people that their purpose here is to grow that family, to work that job, and that's okay. And for someone who feels fulfilled with that, I love that. Like the goal is we need to be fulfilled with what we're doing. And for people like you and I, we know it's a big mission.
Yeah.
Like we have a very big mission. We have a plan. We have a direct purpose. We were sent here for a reason. We did not get dropped into this lifetime just to work an insurance job, just to...
I feel attacked.
I owed you. Just to be in relationships that don't support us. I mean, we're not here for that. No. And every time we get stuck in that, we're just like, we shrivel, right? We sink. Our energy depletes, right? Our glow just decreases. And so it's so important for us to go face those fears, to make those decisions and jump off that ledge. Like
jump off the ledge. Just do it. People, jump off the ledge. Do it. Do it right now. Just jump off this ledge.
But we did it. We did it. We're here. And we know, like, we take on that accountability and that responsibility for ourselves.
Yeah.
I know that I've got me. You know that you've got you. Like, no matter what, I've got it. Bring me the challenges.
I just got to get lesser muscles to not be able to hug myself more like you did. I can't really hug myself too much.
Give yourself a good hug. Tell yourself, I love you. I'm thankful for you. And I've got it.
I think I saw something, not for reference, but like in China or Japan, they actually have services where women just hug men at the end of the day. Think about that.
Okay, but does that not tell you how badly society needs love and needs nurturing? And we all want to be loved and accepted.
Yeah.
Yes.
So as we finish off here, what's one takeaway or message you have for the audience in the sense of like what the best takeaway for them?
You're an absolute goddess. This is for all the women out there. You are an absolute goddess. You were created here for an incredible purpose and incredible fulfillment. And if you do not feel fulfilled in your life, this is a time to go change that. Like, stand tall in your feminine power. Know that you are an incredible being. And you're here to create the life of your dreams. You're here to live that and embody that.
And ladies, you are incredible beings. So remember that. And how do people find you?
So you can find me on most platforms as Goddess Guidance Official. Instagram, Facebook, TikTok.
Okay. I appreciate you coming on. I would definitely have you on again.
Thank you so much. I loved our conversation. I feel like it's just so valuable to hear people talking about these things and talking this way, right? And there's lots of information out there, but to speak to people who've really gone through that journey is so impactful.
It truly is. Thank you, Hilary.
Thank you.